Now, speaking about aura and the fight against corruption, getting public office holders to be accountable when they leave office. Not even when they leave office, when it was in office. I don't know whether you've been following the Ken Ofori-Atta matter, because he's one gentleman who we are asking to come and account for his stewardship as finance minister. I'm not saying he's a criminal or anything, far from that, but there are some questions he needs to come and answer. All this while, we're made to believe that he was recuperating. The situation was so bad that he can't fly to Ghana, sit on a flight and come to Ghana. You have always questioned the basis for that medical situation, because you said, look, people go to hospital, they do prostrate, whatever, and the next day they are walking. It turns out from what we're hearing that the man has been fit. He's been walking on the streets of America, he's traveled to England, he's back to America. And I just recently were told that, he's been arrested by the Immigration and Customs people in America. And why he's been arrested, we're not too sure. But now we're told by some sources that apparently his visa had expired. He was trying to renew his visa so that he can stay, so extend his stay in America. And whilst he was doing that, ICE arrested him. Now we've also had a different version by our Minister of Justice and Attorney General, who says, no, it wasn't a case of his visa being expired, or in fact, his visa was going to expire, in February next month. But then, proactively, he's applied for an extension, and based on which the authorities have arrested him, because even though his visa was going to expire in February, his stay in America, had already truncated. He should have stayed in America for 6 months or so. Then we've heard Attorney General says, no, this is not account of what actually is happening. What is happening is that in July 2025, his visa was revoked. Now, he doesn't tell us directly that he may have been involved in the revocation of his visa, but he sort of insinuates and suggested that he may have, been behind it. Now we're told that the man, in fact, today is about the 9th day he's sleeping at that detention center in Virginia. And apparently he was arrested in just close to the White House. There's actually a building there which formerly was being used by the former vice president and became president, Kamala Harris. And it cost about $1.8 million or so. Of course, nobody doubts his capacity and ability to buy it, because he's been in the private sector for a long time. But the fact of the matter is that he's now in a detention center. His lawyers are fighting the American authorities over his arrest. And then secondly, we're being told that he himself is also applying to become a U.S. citizen through his son, who was born and bred in America. That's according to Martin Kpebu and his source. In fact, he said it some time back and he's repeating it. Now, we're told that the Daily Post is telling us that ICE cleared Ken Ofori-Atta as medically fit before detention. And that's Victor Smith, our envoy in the United States of America.
Now, to narrow it to the Ken Ofori-Atta case specifically, I recall a time when Mr. Ken Ofori-Atta appeared visibly to be sick. Physically, he had bloated, he had become particularly slow, and there was a lot of concern about his health.
Yeah.
And I recall people suggesting that he removed himself from the Ministry of Finance because it was stressful. And I hope all of you recall his response.
Yep.
His response was that Ghana's interest was too dear to him that he was even willing to risk his health in order to serve the country. Why has the story changed now? Now he's not willing to risk his health in order to serve the interests of Ghana that he loves so much. What has changed? What is it that has significantly changed? Okay. Besides, from all that we know, unless there's something else that the public has not been told, what he has is prostrate. I don't know the stage at which his prostrate is. But Massa, everywhere you go in the world, not just in Ghana, many people have these prostrate problems. And they work, they stand trial, they live in prison, they live outside prison, and so on. prostrate is no longer sufficient grounds for refusing to be accountable. Why? I'm quite sure that some of the judges have prostrate. You understand? I mean, some of the judges you'll be facing, they have prostrate. They have prostrate problems. But they are sitting there in court and judging. Okay. The science is that men, after 40 years, are most likely
predisposed
to have prostate cancer or issues related to prostate cancer. It's a normal thing. Just like fibroid is so normal to women and so on. So that is not sufficient excuse for what he appears to be doing. You understand? Now, for all practical purposes, I think that he has worsened his case. You see, today, there are so many leaders of the last government who have been accused of wrongdoing, who have been granted bail, they sleep in their houses, and they go about their normal duties pending further investigations and prosecution. He may not have that privilege if he comes back. And you know why? Because now it's clearly established that it's a flight risk. And judges will find it very difficult, judges and investigators will find it very difficult to grant him bail, as other colleagues of his have been granted bail. So he has worsened his case, and I feel sorry for him, that it has gotten to this level. I really feel sorry for him. Why can't he come and defend himself against the allegations which are being made against him? I don't think that he today can say that the courts in Ghana are kangaroo courts. If he were to make that claim, what would they say? What would that say about the administration to which he was finance minister? How much has changed in the judiciary since John Mahama took over? How much has changed? Majority of high court judges, majority of appeal court judges and so on were appointed by his own administration as we speak now. The judicial system has not changed. So what claims can he make? So I think that it's in his best interest to come, face the charges, and deal with them. I would not for one moment suggest that he's guilty as charged or he's guilty as alleged. It may well be possible that he's an innocent man. And indeed, for all those who are appearing before investigative bodies, including Iroko and so on, the presumption should be their innocence. They are innocent until convicted by a competent court. And that is how all of us should treat them. That is how we should treat all citizens of Ghana, not MPP members, not members of the Akufo-Addo administration. The NDC is not going to be in power forever. At some point, maybe 15 years' time, maybe 40 years' time, maybe 10 years' time, maybe 12 years' time, the NDC would not be in power. We expect the same standard to be applied to NDC leaders as is applied to MPP leaders, as it applies to CPP leaders. We should be principled in these matters. You understand? And if we are principled in these matters, we would not be counting how much has been recovered from prosecution of those accused of corruption. We'll be counting how much justice has been done to citizens and to the country.
True.
It's not money. Question of justice cannot be counted in monetary terms. And I want to believe, I firmly believe in being fair and just to every citizen of our country. That should be our pursuit.
I see.
We should not be counting money. Yeah, so you catch somebody, put them before kangaroo courts, as happened some time ago, and extract monies for them. Is that an achievement?
No.
It's certainly not an achievement, So I insist on the the true application of all the principles of the rule of law.
Okay.
I insist on justice for every citizen. You know, I insist on fair treatment for every citizen,
Right.
whether they are NPP, NDC, or CPP.
Okay.
That's what I insist on.
All right.